Tell me what to do. Show me how to feel.
Hello, Mom. Good day. This is my output for the midterm examination. During this midterm, we have focused on the aspect of 4 modules that talks about the continuation of the important points in literary stylistics. In Module 1, we have talked about the stylistic level of linguistics analysis. In Module 2, we have talked about cohesion and coherence, and foregrounding. In Module 3 and 4, we have talked about the basic genres of literature and their elements. All these modules have made an elaboration on the notions that are significant to stylistics. Talking about the stylistic level of linguistic analysis, stylistics in this level is not just focusing on the situation that stylisticians are only required to focus on the style, but also, as a stylistician, one has to put further importance on the structural elements that are present and used in a course of text. For instance, when I say, "The world is such a beautiful place indeed," in this sentence, I have applied the basic elements that can be found in the structure of a sentence, wherein from the point where I am sure that the world is such a beautiful place and put an adjunct, indeed, I have made an additional exposure and emphasis on the sentence I have said. Thus, we can say that the structure itself already tells a message by not just focusing on the style. Furthermore, there is what we call the units of grammar, which talks about the group, the clause, the sentence, and rank shifting, where all of this belongs to the syntactic features that resides in this level of linguistics analysis. First is the group. In this feature, this is composed of words that are combined to produce a phrase. However, the idea is considered as vague. For instance, when I say, "he kick," it is obvious that someone kick, but the idea is vague because you don't know what the subject had kick. Along with this feature, it has a modifier, had. Next is the clause. In this feature, this is composed of a single idea that mostly do not contain any message, but when combined with other ideas, it could generate a whole topic. The clause also has 2 types, the independent and dependent clause, wherein such clauses are determined into various types such as noun clause, adjective clause, verbal clause, prepositional clause, and adverbial clause. Along with this feature, I also learned about the notion of adjunct that refers to a word that wherever you place it in the course of the sentence, the meaning is always there. For instance, in the sentence, "I will leave this country tomorrow," the word tomorrow, there is the adjunct, wherein when you restate the sentence to "tomorrow, I will leave this country," the meaning is still relevant to the previous sentence. Next is the sentence. In this feature, the sentence is seen as the largest feature in syntactic level. This recounts to the idea of identifying the meaning based on the complexity of the sentences. For instance, why would an author of the text always want to use anecdotes and complex and broad sentences in his style of writing? In this accord, we can have speculations such as the author is either having a complex situation or the author is trying to tell that complexity is difficult to address. In this feature, we have the simple, compound, complex, and compound complex sentences. Let us move to module 2. In this module, we have discussed on the notion of cohesion, coherence, and foregrounding, wherein the matters that lies in this part is the types of cohesion, the meaning of coherence, and the notion of foregrounding. So, how do these things are considered to be vital in explicating the stylistics? To answer this, let us talk about what cohesion really is. Imagine when you are writing to a person where most of your ideas do not relate to others in a way that what you are writing is confusing, perplexed, and somewhat contains grammatical errors. Your receiver might think that you are just joking around him, even if you are serious with what you have said. That is why, in stylistics, the sentences and ideas written must accord to the idea previously stated to the idea that is current stated, or in other words, the textuality of the text. On the other hand, coherence is something that pertains to the meaningfulness of what the text is saying. For instance, when I say, I must get ready for the event, in this statement, it is clear that I would be ready because if not, I might be late for the event. To be both coherent and cohesive is the primary aim of stylistics. More to that, the linguistics. You cannot fully determine the style if the work doesn't impart the clarity and meaningfulness, even if you would say that you are to establish peculiarities. Style must still accord to the way how one delivers the text, especially in the way how it establishes meanings. Along with the discussion, we have also the notion of foregrounding. Foregrounding may be just termed as something which points out to having emphasis, but the truth is there is still more with that notion of it. For instance, when you find uncommon and unusual symbols and writings on the text, it would already refer to foregrounding because it is unusual and therefore is emphasized. But when we talk about the reason why did the author indicated that element out of other possible elements, the notion of foregrounding already lies in there. Thus, this is related to the notion that is trying to establish by stylistics, which is to make further analysis on the unusual in order to identify the purpose and reason behind the style of writing, and more to what will be the message. In modules 3 and 4, wherein we have talked about the basic genres of literature, namely Prose fiction, poetry, and drama, along with their distinctive elements, this also has something to deal with how the course of stylistics goes. That is, we are not just focusing on how to deal with analyzing various styles, but also we should have to consider the elements that lies in the course of stylistics, like the genres of literature. Let us first talk about prose fiction first. In this genre, this is mostly one of the most common form, especially when telling a story, wherein you can really make a wide use of your creativity and knowledge with the application of fictional characters in the purpose of delivering the theme. In prose fiction, we have learned about short stories, novels, and novellas, and how these three bring significance to literature. That is, because of these types, it had made literature known and acknowledged by everyone as an important part of endeavor. That is, in the primary aim of prose fiction, to make wide use in everyday life. Furthermore, we have also talked about the notion of poetry, wherein it is a genre that is mostly used to touch the emotions of the readers. Poetry as a vehicle to deliver messages with the use of rhyme and patterns, and establishes in deep meaning that are highly significant in the reality of life. Poetries could be a lyric, elegy, epic, or panegyric that is based only to the preference and purpose of the author. In drama, this is a genre that talks about the reenactment of certain scenarios, that is, can relate to reality. Dramas can be a form of a comedy, tragedy, romance, horror, with the primary purpose which is to entertain. Dramas are often played in stages and are very pleasing to watch, especially to the ability of the characters to put life under respective rules. Moreover, to the notion of the elements that lies the prose fiction, poetry, and drama are all treated to be essential, and thus makes the genres functional, especially to the notion of delivering its purpose and value in literature. We have the characters that brings life to the story, the plot that organizes events, the setting, the theme that describes what the piece is about, and most importantly, the language. The language is literally one of the most important points in stylistics, because it doesn't just pertain to the notion that language is used in order to write text, but the major factor that lies with the language is through the notion that language gives life to literature, and that it varies from a piece of literature to another. Without language, we cannot understand literature. All in all, the notion about stylistics in literature is extremely significant, especially to the style being established by the author in the means of telling hidden meaning and explicating more on the value of why did the author use such style and how did it came successful in giving meaning that needs careful and in deep understanding. Thank you so much, Mom, for listening my short sentences, and I hope you have a great day.